Ladies and gentlemen, the American people have officially spoken on the ongoing situation in Ukraine. You see, new national polls have just come out the other day, and to put it lightly, American support is pretty much at an all-time low. So today, I want to talk about the entire situation with you guys and go over all of the new numbers. Then I want to break down why people are feeling the way that they're feeling. So hey, without further delay, let's take a look at how Americans feel about our support for Ukraine.
Holy Toledo, look at this trend line here. U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. Back when the war began, back in February of 2022, it was just 7%. Up like a rocket ship, my goodness. Up now in February of 2025 to 41%. And the clear majority of Republicans, and of course Republicans are in charge of the U.S. government now, 62% of Republicans say that the U.S. support for Ukraine is too much. What a difference from just 3 years ago. I can remember, John, all those backyards in the United States with those Ukrainian flags. Far fewer of them today, as Americans' opinions on Ukraine have changed dramatically.
You see that? In the last 3 years, 34% of Americans have shifted over and are now saying enough is enough. We are giving too much support to Ukraine. And I mean, hey, it's hard to feel otherwise when we all know that our country has been suffering domestically. We have our own issues to take care of, and so it's pretty hard to get excited about sending more money to Ukraine when we've already sent over $180 billion. But okay, here's what I wonder. How do Americans feel about Ukraine's leader, Zelenskyy?
Right. You know, obviously, if you would expect changes amongst the public on feelings towards Ukraine, feelings towards Zelenskyy have changed also dramatically. Look at this. Confident Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Back in 2022, it was the clear majority, 72% through the floor. Through the floor by 2024, just 48% of Americans say that they're confident that Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. And GOP confidence has also plummeted dramatically. Now the clear majority of Republicans are not confident that Zelenskyy will do the right thing when it comes to world affairs. Really a real trend line, ones you rarely see in the American public when it comes to Ukraine and Zelenskyy. Confidence in both going down through the ground.
That is a catastrophic drop-off from 72% support to just 48%, less than half in just 2 years. But you know what? Here's the crazy thing, folks. All of these numbers we're looking at today are from just a few days before Zelenskyy's disastrous meeting with Trump and J.D. Vance, which happened yesterday. And so I want to show you guys where everything fell apart during that meeting that happened yesterday. But first, I want to say real quick, if you guys enjoy the daily news coverage, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle against the YouTube algorithm. But okay, so here's the thing, folks. At yesterday's meeting between Zelenskyy, Trump, and J.D. Vance, the first 40 minutes were actually very respectful and civil, but then, seemingly out of nowhere, Zelenskyy snapped on J.D. Vance when Vance suggested that Putin is going to need to be involved in any future peace talks. And yeah, whether or not you like Putin, the reality is that he is going to need to be involved if peace talks are going to happen in the future. And so this is where Zelenskyy went over the edge. Take a look.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
That.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
I'm not
you're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the
the
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
But right now, you don't.
I'm
Yeah,
very
you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're gambling
I'm
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What
III.
what are you
You're
thinking
gambling
about?
with
What are you
World
thinking
War
about?
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. It's
with
back
all
to
respect to
you.
your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Now, folks, here's the thing. All Zelenskyy had to do was show up to the White House wearing a nice suit and tie, remain respectful, remain civil, sign the paperwork that they had agreed upon before the meeting took place, have a nice lunch with the president afterwards, then go home. That's it. That's all he had to do. But guess what? He didn't do that. He decided to disrespect the president, the vice president in the Oval Office in the White House on live TV in front of the press. And so now negotiations have pretty much fallen through. And now we all have a great example of why less than half of Americans nationwide think Zelenskyy is the right guy for the job. But you know what's actually just astounding? Even some of the most pro-Ukraine and pro-Zelenskyy voices we have in the Republican Party are being forced to admit right now that Zelenskyy messed up big time. It's undeniable. In fact, take a look at what Senator Lindsey Graham had to say about all of this just yesterday afternoon.
President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelenskyy again.
And you know what? Everything he just said is 100% true. Americans want a peace deal to take place. We all want this war to come to an end, but it doesn't seem like Zelenskyy is on the same page. You know what? Take a look at this.
All right, let's talk about the idea of a peace deal. And again, the way you ask this matters, but go ahead.
The way you ask it is important, so we can talk about this a little bit. So the poll question essentially is, do you support a Russia-Ukraine negotiated peace deal? The vast majority of Americans, this is what they want. 78% say that they support this idea versus just 16% oppose.
78% of Americans want a peace deal between Ukraine and guess who? Russia. That's what has to happen. But when J.D. Vance says that in order to make a peace deal happen with Russia, you have to actually talk to Russia, Zelenskyy loses his mind. And so I'm sitting here thinking, how does Zelenskyy think that peace negotiations work? In order to achieve peace, in this case, you're going to have to talk to your enemy. It's quite literally the only way. Now, let's take a look at what Trump's press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, had to say about all of this.
The president has made it clear always that both sides need to talk equally to bring both sides to the table to negotiate a deal. And, you know, in a good deal, any good deal, whether it's in business or in politics, both sides usually walk away a little bit unhappy. Unfortunately for Zelenskyy, I think he refuses to recognize the practical reality of this war. It's been going on for years. His countrymen are dying. And the people who have been funding this effort, the American people, are sick and tired of footing this bill. So it's a much different situation for him than it was 3 years ago, and as President Trump said today, he doesn't have any cards. The cards are not in his favor. They're in President Trump's favor. There's a new leader in the White House who has much different priorities than the last administration. He wants peace. He wants the war to end, and it doesn't seem like Zelenskyy wants that quite yet.
And once again, folks, all of that seems to be true. You know what? Let's have a quick reminder here. The only alternative to Trump's peace negotiations is to continue spending hundreds of billions of dollars on this war and to condemn hundreds of thousands of men in Eastern Europe to die. That is the only alternative. That is what happens if Zelenskyy doesn't get his head on straight. And as we all just saw with the poll numbers that we just went over a moment ago, Americans are done with this war. We all want the bloodshed to stop, and we all want our taxpayer money to stop funding it. And so, hey, let's all pray that a peace deal gets worked out as soon as possible. But folks, I think that's going to be a wrap for this video. This is a heavy one, so please go down below in the comments. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video if you liked it. Like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for watching, and of course, as always, stay safe.